cybersecurity expert Charles Tendell.
Systemic failures that brought their whole systems down.
Charles Tendell, he's a certified ethical hacker.
Your emails, it turns out, are not nearly as private as you think.
Show really how vulnerable we are.
Charles Tendell, who deals with hackers all the time, says,
if you have to ask yourself, is this right? It probably isn't.
Welcome. What's going on, guys? Welcome once again here into the Charles Tendell Show. You know who I am and you know what I'm about. If not, you know where you're going. Over to the CharlesTendellShow.com, and while you're there, do the thing. Like, subscribe, share, and do all that other fantastic stuff you do online at the CharlesTendellShow.com. And while you're there, remember to click that Get the Latest button and be instantly teleported over to SoundCloud, where you get the latest, greatest, and past episodes of this show at your leisure on SoundCloud, because it's the coolest place. I really love having things out there because I get a whole lot of new creators and a lot of new content comes from there, and a lot of people are interacting over on SoundCloud. So if you want to get more about this show, or you want to stay up to date on all of that, go over to thecharlestendellshow.com, and like I said, click that Get the Latest button and be taken over to SoundCloud. Or if you want to get notified, or you want to have the show delivered to every one of your devices, or any of your devices that you so choose, click the subscribe button, which is right there to the left of the Get the Latest button there on the CharlesTendellShow.com. And remember, while you're there, if you go over and you check out all the social media stuff, you can participate in the live comment section down below on the Facebook live stream. Hello, Facebook live stream people. And for those of you who helped me over the course of the weekend toy with my new camera setup, because I've got a new camera that came in because I'm going to be covering the swearing-in ceremony for the local elections that took place. If you guys missed that, there was a whole series about the Vote New Bern experience out there, where all the new aldermen and the mayor got a chance to tell you what it was that they wanted to vote about. I'm going to be covering that election, and I needed a second camera to be able to make sure I covered it all accurately. And if you're noticing there's a little bit of lighting difference and all this other stuff going on, we're upgrading here on the Charles Tendell Show, so the visual component is getting more and more emphasis out there, and it has been very, very, very well received. So thank you guys out there on the Facebook comments and the live stream for being involved in this conversation. It really, 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 really means a lot to me. And remember, not only can you get this on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, the CharlesTendellShow.com, you can get this show on the 252 radio app on your favorite app store. You can get it on Android and iOS, and with that you can get all the other stuff that is involved in the 252 radio lineup on 107.5 FM and New Bern's News Talk. And you can keep up to the conversation because there's a lot of good stuff, a lot of local content, and a lot of local creators that are bringing more and more content that are probably going to end up contributing to the whole idea of it. So if you want to get more, or you want to do anything, you got Facebook, you got the Charles Tendell Show, you got iTunes, you got TuneIn, you got Stitcher, you got SoundCloud, you got everywhere you could want it to be on any of those social medias. You got the app, you can do all of that stuff. Just make sure you get it and you stay up to date on what's going on if you want to be involved in the conversation. So with all of that niceness out of the way, today's conversation is, well, it's what's the topic? I don't even really know how to put this out there. It's about developing people inside the cybersecurity community, and it's really the reason that I'm actually jumping the line with this one, because it's with the California Cyber Hub and with Donna Woods, the community manager for California Cyber Hub. Definitely do check them out. I'll make sure the links are popping up somewhere. It's the ca-cyberhub.org. But the conversation revolves around developing people into cybersecurity professionals from all walks of life, regardless of where they are from or how they grew up, or changing that narrative really about getting people into the community. Now, the reason that I'm kind of jumping the line, and I meant to give Donna a little more of a heads up with getting this one aired for her, was I've had a conversation over the weekend with a community of people that I have regularly championed as a model for diversity, because in the hacker community, as I've seen it and as I've experienced it, we don't know what each other look like. We don't know whether we're male or female, black, white, Puerto Rican, Asian, whatever, behind the keyboard. And the first interactions that we have in a lot of occasions, at least for me, has always been, oh, check it out, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, this is what you coded, this is what you contributed to the community, this is what you put out there, this is how these people work, and that's always been kind of my avenue and my feeling of it all. Well, over the weekend I had some interesting conversations about about diversity, more specifically about how women are treated in technology. And in one of my forums that I'm on, shouts out to 2600, one of my forums that I'm in, there was a picture posted of a person holding a soldering iron like a pencil. And for me, the first thing I noticed was, oh man, that's going to suck, because I've done that before and it hurt so bad. And I still to this day probably have the scar on one of these fingers from where I was holding this. And I've never repeated that, before in my life. I've never repeated that again. But the picture had a couple of different things in it, aside from the fact that it was stock photography and some stock photographer idiot screwed it up. And then the fact that nobody that he was working with corrected him. And there were just so many issues. And again, I'm assuming it was a him, whoever it was that took the picture. But there were so many issues. Like the board was in the wrong place. Where they were soldering wasn't really somewhere you'd solder. It was just a stock photo of somebody holding a soldering iron completely wrong to a motherboard in a completely wrong place. But it spiraled off into an interesting dive and resulted in me actually asking this question openly and getting some fascinating responses to this. And when I say fascinating, it's both fascinating and it kind of makes my heart hurt, because some of the people in there started harping on the fact that the person in this picture holding the soldering iron was a woman, and took it as another example of a male-dominated field just making women look bad in technology. And it got me to thinking, how far does this actually go? How bad actually is this? And I won't get into too many details or too many specifics into what people said out there. And, maybe I'll do a whole nother follow-up show on this one and have some of these people come on and give me permission to contribute their stories to it. But the things that I heard come down to a lot, and this one's two guys, right? I'm looking right at you guys. If you're watching this on the live stream or anywhere else where you're listening, and you just imagine me staring into your soul at this point. If you are too much of an asshole to realize that these women are capable and they are more than functional in our environment, and that their skill level goes so far beyond their gender, you're an idiot and you need to be retrained. You need to be sent back home to your mama and have her slap you around a little bit. Now, I apologize for men who may have grown up without a mom, who may have grown up without some home training out there for what it is that you do. But the way that we treat women in any industry should not in any way be dictated by their gender. It shouldn't be by the color of their skin. It shouldn't be by the language they speak. It shouldn't be by any of that. And especially in an environment where the technology we all use and we all strive to master doesn't care who we are or how we do it. I've met women in this industry that have been so amazing, that have done such amazing things. In fact, if you guys are watching this on the live stream, you see the iSecure logo on my hoodie here. Yeah, I understand. The whole No More hoodie thing is still something that I do, but iSecure had a webinar series where they allowed me to come and talk about what hackers really look like and the culture of what hackers look like. But iSecure, interesting fact, is a woman-owned cybersecurity company, and they have been making strides and pioneering in places and putting together stuff that you would never imagine. In fact, the woman who vouched for me and my CISSP many years ago would dance circles around not only me, but most of the men I know in this industry. So it shocks me when I hear that women are being underrepresented or treated unfairly just because they're female, especially in an environment where our first interaction happens to be our computers. It happens to be our keyboards, And through the beautiful thing that is the internet, we see that a lot of these people, that first interaction is are you an expert? Are you moderately well trained, or are you a complete noob? And I've watched this community embrace that and take it forward. And while me personally, I like to believe that the asshole guys out there are the outliers, the number of women that have come forward and have made a statement in response to some of my questions has just been mind-blowing. And the fact that it's happening on such a grand level is kind of shocking to me. And as a father of four beautiful little girls and one very rambunctious little boy, it is something that I'm going to do everything in my power to kind of stamp out. So if you're out there and you're listening to my voice and you want to get involved in this conversation and you want someone that's going to be able to advocate for you, please, or if you don't even, if you want to tell me to F off and I don't need to advocate for any of you, that's fine too, but just contribute to the conversation, please. Because if you don't say something, we're never going to know. And one of the angles of that whole conversation was that, well, the diversity of people is so different. From state to state, from country to country, people believe that their behavior might be right, that it's something that they've always grown up with, it's something that they've always been with. And the idea of treat people how you want to be treated is the number one way to do this, right? Is the one way to do this, with one caveat. How do you know that the way you want to be treated isn't harassment to the other person on the other side? And that's just the complexity of things. And how do we get around that? How do we fix that? We have open, honest communications, and we take our emotions and we put them in our little boundary box over here, and we sit down and we open that dialogue and be willing to answer the challenging questions and have the challenging conversations about this diversity. My mom, actually, she's an absolute badass out there, and this woman always taught me, if you see something, say something, and to do something about it. And she's never failed in that. She's taken on battle after battle in places that would scare most men to death, and she's come out victorious. Sometimes she hasn't, but she still gets up and she keeps going. And then dealing with, military family and 3 boys, she had a lot on her plate, but she still did it and she still took it. And men out there, we need to realize that these women, they've got a lot on their plates. There's a lot going on with a lot of them. And there are the outliers, the exception to the rules, that will abuse their gender. Right? They will abuse their assets in order to get ahead in life. And those ones we still need to call out. But we need to be more careful with how we treat each other out there, and understanding how everyone wants to be treated. Treat others how we want to be treated. Yes, that's good. But we need to make sure that how we're treating others is actually how they want to be treated. So there's that one. So I can go into a whole long rant even further about this one, and I'm still assimilating some of the information that has been brought to my attention with all of this. But it's definitely a conversation that I want to keep having. So if you're in the comments, if you want to get involved in this conversation, I'll have more after this interview, and then I'll probably hang around and do a Q&A session like I always do after the show. But do please get involved in this one. Do please take the opportunity to have the conversation, to be involved, and to know what's going on. So with the conversation with Donna Woods, from the community manager from California Cyber Hub, it was just a spectacular example of how we're bringing so many different people together to just basically get their hack on and learn new skills, meet new people, have a very deep and diverse collection of people that they can interact with. And none of these people look the same, none of these people act the same, they don't behave the same, but they come from all over the world to learn some amazing things. So if you really want to get interested in the California Cyber Hub, check them out, ca-cyberhub.org. Check out this interview that I did with Donna Woods, the community manager for CA Cyber Hub, and I'll be right back here on the Charles Tendell Show. So Donna, welcome into the Charles Tendell Show. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you so much for having us. It's a privilege.
Right on. So give my audience a little background about who you are and what you do.
Okay, well, I am a high school educator in Southern California. I have a master's of science degree in workforce education development with a specialization into information security or information technician and technology pathways. I also serve as the California Cyber Hub community manager, which is a very important work that's just recently started and launched this year, in where we bring a collaborative effort of all our K-12 educators, the California community colleges, CSUs, our California state universities, the UCs throughout California, our government partners, and of course, business and industry sectors.
Nice. Now, you'd said California Cyber Hub. What is that? How did that get started?
Great question. I am so glad you asked. Well, throughout California, we found that, one, there is a high demand for cybersecurity specialist and technician jobs, but there wasn't a one singular resource where people could go to, whether it was business or government or education. They didn't have a singular resource to where they could go to get these needs met. Currently in California, we have total job openings exceeding 31,000, and at the national level, 285,000. And we found throughout California that there was an extensive amount of great work done at our community colleges as far as training up and having IT technical pathways, amazing work going on at our high schools, a lot of things through nonprofits such as the Cyber Patriot organization, where high school students and middle school students can participate in the Cyber Patriot national competition. But again, there wasn't one entity that brought this all together. During this summer in June, we had a special Governance Cup challenge for Cyber Patriot teams at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And at that challenge, we had many specialists from around the nation, including the CIA, the directors of national security, representatives, top chief information officers from the UCs and from the state of California. And while the students were competing, we all had a collaborative working session. And we thought, what do we need to design and build so we can have that one resource? And from that, the California Cyber Hub was birthed. And our mission is to simply enable a strong future ethical workforce by expanding and supporting all the quality cyber education and training going across the state and in businesses. So we want to support those businesses for their future employees, have strong pathways, educational pathways going from the high school directly to the community college, and making sure those community colleges have transferable credits that are received at the CSUs and UC, and also in support of legislation that supports both the business and the educational entities and efforts. So it's to organize all those private partnerships and educational and public partnerships together and giving them one supported resource where they can gather any of their training and information they need for all the activities going across California.
Wow. Now that sounds like a lot to take on. How many people were working this out? This sounds like something that would be super complex and has a bunch of moving parts, and it would require kind of a team of people to put this together.
Right, it is. And that's what was amazing, Charles, is that here, instead of these people who were, again, subject matter experts coming from the top in the nation and from their universities and their business sector, instead of holding on to their own silos of here is our area of greatness and what we're doing so well, it was totally opposite. There was such a synergetic effect of everybody there that they wanted to do something positive and what's going to make a difference. How do we meet the shortfall? How do we help our local businesses? How do we help education? And collaboratively, we can do a lot more than alone. So even though it seems like it's a daunting task, the efforts of all these people coming forward and where they specialize, their specialty, their knowledge, their information, their resources, that's what's making it happen. And yes, we have a small team of people behind the scenes that need a lot of support. We have our national syndicate writers, we have our directors, we have people that are making it go forward. But again, this is because of everybody's collaborative effort and not staying alone in those silos, but saying, hey, we've got to make a difference in our state. We have to make a difference. It starts with education. It needs a business partnership. So even though it seems overwhelming, it's really not. When people come together and take those efforts and bring their energies and talents to the forefront and financial backing, whatever it may be, that's what makes it work.
That's outstanding. Now, you had mentioned that we've got this skills gap. We've been talking about this, or people have been talking about this for a while in cybersecurity. And to have a group of people come together and say, hey, we're missing something, let's put together kind of a group and start mentoring these people and moving it forward. How did you attract those people? I mean, did you reach out to them and say, come do this, or did they all just come to you or come together and say, we're going to do this now?
Yeah, so we did reach out to them, and again, at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, where we had the national competition, that's where we knew we had an audience there that we could bring together and ask these specific questions. And we looked at what are our strengths and weaknesses across California, and what do we need to do. We discovered that we have amazing, in our California Community College system, we have 24,000 students and incredible IT technical pathways, and it's actually in 4 phases. But those courses, we needed to ensure that those students then, that their credits and their transferable credits parlay into the degrees at the CSUs and UCs. In fact, at my high school, we have a clear pathway. My students receive 12 articulated college credits, and that's not a normal or uncommon across California. We have many high schools doing that, where we have UC articulated credits. So they go on to the community college. They're also receiving industry certifications. And so now it's about collaborating, taking from the community college and all those great skills and the people that are currently in the workforce that may not already have their bachelor's degrees, but want to obtain it to move up to the different cybersecurity positions, the administrative, the management positions, beyond the entry level. That's now our next big focus, having that Bachelor of Applied Science, that specialty degrees that's only offered at a few CSUs, but we can offer that at our community colleges. We can make some changes in the state to fulfill that need and get those people in 31,000 jobs that we need to do. We obviously can't outsource it, but it is going to take a great effort, and that's why the small business and the businesses throughout California are an important part of this, as well as our government legislation.
Nice. Now, you had mentioned the paths all the way from high school into their higher level education there. How important is education to a cybersecurity professional? I mean, I know a ton of analysts right now, and I use the term analyst loosely. I should be more specific. I know a ton of hackers right now that they feel like that education segment it's not being applied too well. So how important is the right education in cybersecurity?
You bring up an excellent point, and this was our discussion here. We have so many incredible people out there who are talented, whether they are the ethical hackers, they've worked there, but they were not able to find those specific classes that they needed. They received industry certifications, but the pathways that were initially designed at the universities were not geared to specified cybersecurity specialist jobs. That's what we're about changing. You have many at the community college, and we want our resources and part of California Cyber Hub to really support that IT pathway and those people that are currently out there, at the IT analysts that you speak of, that need and are looking for that finalized degree. The education is critically important to open the doors because this is what businesses are looking for. But then how do we make that educational pathway coherent and positive and relevant to the specialists that are already in the field? That's what we're working towards. We need to make sure we make that pathway easy for them. They're not in phase 1 and phase 2. They're already in phase 3 and 4. They have their network, maybe their Security Plus, they have their CompTIA, they've received certain certifications, right? Their CCNA security, and because this was innately an ability already built into them. So we want to get them through and into excellent pathways that are designed at the colleges that can give them the bachelor's degree, that can move up in the management so that the entry-level workforce then is fulfilled by those upcoming high school students that are entering into the community colleges. This is what has to be succinct for them, because a lot of them will see, I know this, I have the skills gap, but I went to the college, they didn't have what I needed. And that's what we're turning around. That's what we're changing. We have those courses in place. We have to have those aligned up. And that's what we're working towards, because the educational pathway is very important. Securing those degrees, again, ensuring that the business has ethical workforce where people are trained, where they have their natural abilities, and that's aligned with their educational assets. Then we have a strong workforce.
That makes sense. That makes sense. No, the conversation being on the education side, you know, there's a question of how are you making it attractive to the students? You know, how are we getting more people who not necessarily have a background or a history in cybersecurity or who are hackers? How do you get like somebody brand new in high school who's looking at, you know, normally I get to go off and be a doctor or a lawyer or a pilot or something. Now you're saying, hey, come be a cybersecurity professional.
Right, and it's a great question. We do, it's specifically for on our campus, we have a medical academy and an academy of creative technologies. And what we do, we let the students know cybersecurity impacts every industry sector. It's not just a separate industry, unlike where you might have in media, it impacts media, right? We have to protect them from taking any media bites, Sony gaming devices. It impacts the medical profession, where you have to have all the privatized data. It impacts the retail professions and retail dollars, finance. If you look at any of the cybersecurity issues and like FireEye and any of the online activity that you can see for the live cyber hacks that are going on, you'll see that the certain industries are actually targeted. So we need specialists in every industry sector. When students realize that, when we do presentations at the high schools and at the colleges saying, yes, you might be a specialist in finance and you might be going down that medical pathway, but you need cybersecurity as a base in your education because you will be having to deal with protecting the data. It's no longer just an IT analyst responsibility. It's all of our responsibilities. So we are making it part of the pathway for our high school students, and we believe the colleges and universities should look at this as a general ed component, that you need a full year's course in cybersecurity, regardless of what your major is and what industry you're going to. And that becomes attractive to students because it makes them more viable than in their industry sector for their jobs as they're going to, as they get their degree, whether they're specializing again in the medical field, in finance, or in any particular retail management, business sector, even in emergency professions such as fire science and government. They have to realize that cybersecurity is an important part of every one of those industries. You're protecting data, you have to source data, you have to make sure that the malware, the ransomware, what the hackers want to get to, that data and privatized information, that you become, instead of a resource and a portal for them, you become an advocate to not let them do that, and you're supporting your IT in that industry. And we have to do that as end users. It's all of our responsibility.
Wow. I mean, I agree with you that giving everyone or changing it to be kind of having a cybersecurity specialty, or at least some sort of reference, or at least some sort of small education in every aspect of careers moving forward is a fantastic idea. I love that, because you're right. We're past the point now where security or dealing with technology is optional, and most of it is dealing with some of the most critical infrastructures we have on the planet right now. I mean, we're talking we're talking about now people's lives, and just as technology moves forward, it would be really cool to see someone who's going to a community college for an automotive technician to actually take a class on automotive security practices or something similar like that. So that's really cool. Now, in the terms of, we're developing these students, we're putting these people out there, how are you working with businesses to ensure that not only the path that you're giving them is what this company is going to need, not just today, but in 2 years from now, but how are you working to educate the businesses on what it is that they actually need in terms of cybersecurity?
Right. We do. We host workshops to them through the California Cyber Hub. We invite businesses to partner with us. And we're also looking at creating and working with our legislators to support legislation that offers tax incentive for businesses, both large and small businesses throughout California, to get innately involved in apprenticeships for these students, whether they're at the high school level, the community college, and the CSU. The apprenticeships, not internships. That's one portion, but apprenticeships where you're actually having the students work with you to model in your business, to partner with your business in securing those. Now, this is most important to the small businesses in California, which make up a large portion of our economy, because they may not be able to afford that IT analyst that does have their bachelor's or their master's, but someone coming through that. And what the tax credit would be to those businesses that not only one have completers through their apprenticeship, an 18-month apprenticeship, but also have a hiring for those students coming up there, again, to fulfill those needs in a workforce. So we're looking at those business partnerships, and one, educating the businesses to what they need. And again, in all their sectors of their business, you're looking at human resources, as you just mentioned. If you're in the automotive field, how do you train your automotive engineers about the specialties, especially with all the artificial intelligence, the information going into our engines, the GPS is in there. Those are important, that those engineers, those designers, those mechanics understand the securities involved. And so working with those businesses and partnering with them is important. We have to educate them first as to their needs, and then partner with them as to the supply for having those partnerships and those collaborative efforts with the students and with those that are going into the programs and want to seek out that IT pathway. Wow.
Now, in terms of these businesses, do you find that they're coming to you and they're telling you that what they need? Well, in most cases right now, when dealing in any type of cybersecurity hiring process, I read job requirements, and I read or hear about conversations that the HR person has been having where they're saying, "Hey, we need an analyst with 50 years of experience and 100,000 lines of code that they've worked with or experienced and things like that." When you get those types of hiring requests, or you get those types of companies like that, are you taking the time to say to them, actually, this is what you might want to refine this as, and let me give you an example?
Right. That's exactly, you hit it right on the head, Charles. That's exactly what we're doing right now, is redefining their process, redefining their thinking or their methodologies. It's critical. Because, and again, that's why it was so important to make sure those people that are already in it, that may have the 5 years experience, that they're coming back and they're able to get a degree quickly, right, for looking for those companies that want it while moving the others up. You have to work with the businesses to understand, like, this is what we need, but they're being reactive instead of proactive. And that's where the mindset has to change. We have to do both. So we're both offensive and defensive. And it's important because businesses usually realize it after they've been targeted. And after there's been a compromise, then they're having to put out an excessive amount of dollars to restore what was lost. We want to avoid that. So again, it's about bringing the business to the table and changing their mindset and their thinking, the governing that's happening, as well as helping them achieve their goals and what their needs are. But it's bringing everybody to the table together. And this is where the conversations have to happen. So we're so grateful to be on your show today, because you have to get the information out there. The conversations have to happen. And beyond the conversations, action has to happen. And we have to put it into place, and it has to happen quickly. We know how fast cybersecurity change, how fast the issues change, how fast the intel changes. And so it's important that we're on the same page, working together and trying to meet those needs. So it isn't an easy task. It can be overwhelming, but we can do it together. It's not impossible.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Now, in the broad scope of the pool of people that you're pulling in, anywhere from high school, and I think you had mentioned somewhere even a little lower than that, all the way up into graduating college, getting their degree or their 4-year degree or a master's program, and then finally going off into their company. You've got a pretty a wide gap of people there. What's the diversity like in the people that come into this California Cyber Hub and that you're working with?
This is what's been so exciting. Even for the cyber programs we support, like Cyber Patriot, we have a broad ethnic diversity, and we're bringing a lot of young girls from the STEM, what we call GEM, girls excelling in mathematics and science, the STEM fields. We're finding out, and even those girls that are usually, I have several students in my class that may have been in our medical pathway for nursing and going into the medical field, females, and they're realizing, wait, this is my niche too. I can really do this. And they felt empowered. We actually had them say, when we had some students on a panel recently, and one of the key was a business member and some government there. They said, why did you get into this, or what has this helped you do when you're going through this educational pathway or being a part of this Cyber Patriot team? And they said, I realized I can do anything. If I can do this, I can do anything. And it's giving them a level of confidence and an understanding. And again, many of our students were unaware that this pathway even existed. So it's about educating, again, the schools. So we have a broad diversity of students in it, male and female, all the ethnic diverse backgrounds, and even more importantly, very diverse socioeconomic backgrounds. This is equalizing the playing field. I love when I have it in my classroom and I see these students when we go through training and workshops. I may have a student that's in the foster program sitting right next to a student that's an AP honors student. They may have never collaborated before in campus for anything, but in this effort, in this course, and on their Cyber Patriot team, they're working together to solve and, harden security systems, solve critical think. You wouldn't have seen this before. And it's exciting because they realize this is what's going to really happen in the job field. And this is what the employers need. They need people that are diverse. They need people that can apply critical thinking skills, that can react quickly, that can solve those problems and work collaboratively in teams with people that are diverse from themselves. And they do it with ease. And this is the most exciting outcome of what we're seeing across the state through these cyber programs. And that's why the California Cyber Hub was actually created. We need to bring it in. It can no longer be what we normally see in IT, the older white male, no offense, but I'm a female, and I know when I was coming up the street, it was very difficult, hitting that glass wall. It's changing, and that's exciting.
Now let's go there, because I mean the conversation around diversity varies from professional to professional, and me personally, I feel like the issues that are happening in the cybersecurity industry in terms of the diversity gap happens to be people's inability to actually realize what diversity is. We have this conversation of the minority status, like black versus white, and so on and so forth in that industry. But when I hear about programs like California Cyber Hub, I hear everything that you said, the very last thing you said, or the very last, or even the lightest point you had in there, had little to do with the colors or anything like that. It was all about their financial backgrounds, their home backgrounds, the foster program child next to the AP student child, like all of these people coming from so many different places, coming together and getting excited about a project that they're working on. Why do you think, and you even mentioned it yourself, that there was that glass wall there, What do you think the resistance was or currently is in the cybersecurity industry? Why can't we get, like, at the level that you're at right now, it seems like it's on fire, but then you get into the cybersecurity at higher levels or even the older levels and you run into this, I'm not sure what diversity really is, not sure where I want to go with it or how I want to handle it. What do you think that's causing that?
Well, again, as an educator, the first part that I see, Charles, is students do not believe they may have the abilities in science and mathematics to do this, but it's broader than that. It's not only science and mathematics. That's the first key. And so as we are reaching down to the elementary and middle school levels and letting students of every ethnic and diverse background see this, then they realize I can do this. Now, for the employer that's at the other end of the spectrum, they're currently seeing a generation that was not exposed to them, that was not given that belief system or even given the opportunity to try and to be a part of such a pathway, a STEM pathway. It was usually only geared to certain segments of the nation, to certain segments within California, to certain school districts within California. That has changed with a great deal of funding by the National Science Foundation, with national grants, with state grants, and where we're reaching into populations that were not reached before. This is going to change the face of what the employers are seeing with this generation. These are the digital natives. They're not seeing that. They're not buying into, I have to be of a specific group or of a specific segment, a specific color, a specific economic, social background. If they have the abilities, we need them. Let's ask this question. Why would we? This is a question I always ask as a female coming up in it. Why would you, looking at just male to female, get rid of 50% of your population that has the same or equal ability? Then you're casting them aside. So why would you do that to your population as a whole when you have such a great demand for jobs and such a great demand? Why would you not want to expose them and educate everybody who would want this opportunity to help your business and help your nation? This is going to have it pays full dividends. This investment that we're making into the students now through California Cyber Hub, through these grants, through the movement going across education, will pay high dividends. We have to be open to it. Again, we have to change our thinking. This generation coming up, they're prepared. It's about changing, again, the mindset of the business. Are you prepared to accept your full population and help educate them and not cast them aside, because you're only hurting yourself when you do?
No, and I see that, and I hear that statement, and I think, I wonder if the casting aside was a matter of that silo that you had mentioned earlier. You have a bunch of professionals that wanted to come in, they wanted to break down that silo and start sharing their wisdom and their information with people. But I wonder if it was, I'm already here, I've gone through all of this, I've gone through this, that, or the other, and I don't want to have to share all of that information because I'm afraid of one thing or another. And it sounds like almost that those shells are kind of softening. We're seeing more and more professionals that are more willing to reach back and mentor or get involved in programs.
Right. I agree with you, Charles. I certainly hope they are. That's what we're seeing across the state. As we've been working with different, partners throughout this, we are seeing that. We're realizing they realize they can't do it themselves. They can no longer live in those silos. It's not effective. It's not helping us move forward. And you either have to get with the plan and move forward to see the bigger picture, and you have to enlarge your vision, enlarge your mission, and be willing, because, again, you have to be willing to mentor. You have to be willing to take your knowledge, to take your expertise, and impart that to the next generation, impart that to the students that are coming up or the people that want to, regardless of their background. If they have the ability, if they have the desire, then we have to make it possible for them, and it takes all of us. I ran into that often as a female coming up in this industry, and it was hard. Even in writing, I had to do more at the college level. I had to do more research than my counterparts. I had to prove myself often. That isn't necessary. Again, you're moving and you're creating a law that doesn't need to be there. So it's about changing our own personal bias as to it's an individual and a person who has an ability, that has the desire to move forward. Let's give them the tools and the keys they need so we can solve this issue that we have nationwide. And that is fulfilling, the cybersecurity supply demand. It's going to have huge rewards, but it takes, again, that keep coming back to the table. It takes those conversations, and it takes a change of our own mindset to make it happen.
Nice. Now, as a woman in this industry, how long have you been in cybersecurity?
Well, that's an interesting question. I actually came up through the aerospace industry before going into education. My
Nice.
father was an aerospace engineer, and I always loved math and science. But again, those walls were always there. And while I was growing up through high school and college, and I'm aging myself here, I don't mind to say it, I, graduated high school in 81 and went to the college thing. It was challenging. Cybersecurity was just a recent transition for me as I taught GIS and computer information systems. And when we were discussing the pathways with the colleges and articulation, then I got into it just about 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And so really on, and it was easy again to transition, not coming from that background, but to transition and understanding and then offer the pathways to the students. I encourage my students to pass me up. I'm excited when they pass me up. I want them to bring knowledge to the classroom. It's a collaborative effort. Our classroom is not a lecture and a talking head. We're bringing collaborative knowledge and information in here, and what can we do to grow together? So I learn from them as much as they learn from me. And particularly in cybersecurity, it's a never-ending educational pathway. We all have to go back. It's always changing. It's always evolving. And so if we want to step one step ahead and stay in advance in that, so it's positive, and that's what's been exciting for me. I love it. There's never a dull moment in the classroom, and we're always learning together.
That's what I tell my wife, who she's very interested in becoming a cybersecurity professional. We've actually set out kind of down a path to see how far we can take this with just me and her working together to get her into the industry, coming from a paralegal background. She's of the impression, she's like, I can't do this. This is not what I want to do. It's like, you're crazy. Watch this. Let's get you some experience first. And she's been dealing with me over the course of our marriage, so she's had some exposure. But the idea is...
But it is possible for other professions, right? It is possible, and it starts with just the basic foundations of securing your own personal devices, having an understanding and a cybersecurity awareness, personal safety for your home devices, your smart devices, and then parlaying that into your workforce and into your careers.
And it's all going to come together. It's all going to come to head even more so as the years progress. Now, you being in the industry, or kind of well, in the tech world, you're an old person in the industry. 6 years in, you're still getting there. But what personal roadblocks did you run into other than, you coming from an aerospace engineering background? That's a high level of geek. That's well beyond most people. So, what were some of the roadblocks that you yourself experienced?
Into the cybersecurity the last 6 years or prior?
Oh, cybersecurity. I mean, you can go over your whole career, but cybersecurity specifically.
Cybersecurity specifically, what I'm excited to report is not many roadblocks at all. The attitudes are changing, and that's been very, very refreshing compared to what it was several years ago. As I am looking at, as I achieved my Master of Science in it, the doors were open up. People were excited. They're excited to see women involved. They're excited to see the different diversity, the ethnic diversity involved, and they are sharing their knowledge. The good old boys club, as it might have been referred to when I was coming up prior, those walls are coming down, and again, I can't explain it to you. The doors were wide open. So I encourage women. I encourage young girls. I encourage people, male and female, of any ethnic diversity. If you are in a different career pathway right now, look this up. Check it out. It's worthwhile. And there are incredible jobs out there. It saddens me every year when I see students graduating from our, CSUs and UCs, and you'll have 6,000 students graduating from one college as business majors, but they can't get a job. Had added this simple focus of cybersecurity at the entry level, they would have been hired while they were still attending college. They would have been able to do an internship, an apprenticeship. It is wide open. These colleges, the businesses are asking for it. The funding is there. The students can even get funding now. What I love currently in the cybersecurity movement is there is funding for their college degrees. They can get full scholarships, paid internships while they're in college. This is phenomenal. This is has not happened in the past. This is what was wide open. It helped pay for my master's degree while I was getting my master's of science, which I was greatly appreciative. So I see a large change, a huge pendulum shift that's been for the positive. And I encourage students or people out there in your radio audience who are looking to first go into the profession, like your wife, seeing what they could do within their own career professions and seeking out cybersecurity, seek it out. There are amazing resources at our community colleges, as I spoke of earlier, to the IT technician pathway, those 4 phases where they can get their certifications very inexpensively, get placed into internships, and get placed into jobs. So therefore, this is where the partnership's important. It's available. It's out there. We just have to inform everybody of the opportunities that are there for them. And it's changed greatly in a positive. So I'm very happy to report that.
Nice. Nice. I mean, I grew up in the hacker community. I mean, that was the whole world that I lived in. So we didn't have any of these. It wasn't until years later that I got into cybersecurity that what the person looked like, where they were from, how they sounded, or what their gender was even a thing. And I remember growing up as a hacker that if there was a female, it was like, wow, like it was the most impressive thing on the planet, because it's just like, it was amazing. It was just like, yes, because it felt like girls didn't want to come in. Women didn't want to come into doing anything. And it was just like, this is great. So seeing that all now and seeing it come out it's been a nice ride. And I have this conversation often because the diversity conversation and the skills gap conversation in cybersecurity is something that I'm extremely passionate about. As a black man in this industry, I do go to these conferences, and like you said, that good old boy system was pretty evident, but I never really hit any of those roadblocks. I never really ran up against someone who blatantly, because of the way that I looked or however it was discriminating or challenging me. And I'm an Army brat, so I was also always educated on like military bases, so I had access to those.
We have that in common, Charles. I grew up as an Army brat also.
Oh, right on. Good job. I like that. See? So I'm wondering though, in the terms of your background, you said that a lot of the times you felt like you had to prove yourself, or that you would have this notion going into something that you were going to have to prove yourself. Did that happen? Did that come to fruition? Did you actually have to prove yourself, or were they open to the point of saying, we want to see what you can do and go for it?
Yeah, and that was exciting. That didn't happen in the cybersecurity field. It happened in the aerospace industry, but not the cybersecurity. Everybody has had their arms wide open. They want to extend their knowledge. They want to share their information. They're excited, like you said, to see a female come into it. I didn't grow up as a hacker. I'm not an ethical hacker. And my students always ask that all the time when they come into the class for the first time. Are you going to teach us how to hack? And we said, no. We're going to teach you penetration testing and how to ensure that you're putting the hardening and securing of the systems, and again, change their mindset, because it's exciting. They hear what's on the news, they see what's happening, and unfortunately, it's become very profitable for hackers out there in the world to do what they want to do. They've created whole corporations around it. So how do we get those guys and females and people just in general on the good side, on the good team? And so, no, in cybersecurity, they've been wide open. And that's what's so exciting for me. I felt like I want to run to this because they were so open that anybody can run to this. And I think that's what my students see, again, from all their diverse backgrounds. It's like, like you said, I'm not looked at because I'm this person of color or because I'm this socioeconomic background. I'm not looked at because I'm male or female. I'm just welcome because I have this talent or the desire to do this. And they want to help me achieve this. That's what's exciting. When you go onto our California Cyber Hub page and you see the pictures of these kids at the cyber camps and participating in the competition and all the different workshops, you will see that diversity, and it's exciting. It is very exciting. Yeah, because they feel welcome into it. And it's just all we're doing, we tell our students all the time, an athlete is working muscles. We're flexing the muscles above the shoulders. And, that doesn't question any of the exterior. We just want to look at your ability, what can you do, and bring it to the table.
Love it. Love it. Now, I'm going to ask you to do something with your students, though, and this is something that me and a few other people are trying to work out. The hackers that they see on television are the outliers. Those are malicious. Those are the malicious hackers, the bad guys that want to do stuff. Most of the guys who are doing the penetration testing and doing things like what I do and like what you do, because you can technically be classified as a hacker, we all have a different mentality as to the way we see the world operate, and we want to come together to make sure that people are working. So when your students ask you if you're going to teach them how to hack, you're going to say, yeah, but it's more like penetration testing because of this here piece of paper that says you have permission to do everything you're going to do. So it's changing the mentality of what people believe hackers actually are is what we're all trying to work on.
Absolutely. We call them white hats. And I agree with you, Charles. And we do that with our students. And there is an ethical code of compliance. And it puts them, actually my students, it's amazing when you say that when we talk about the ethics, when we talk about the code of ethics and their responsibility, and that they are even better than what they've perceived on television, it makes them, again, it builds up their confidence, and they say, wow, I am actually doing something of incredible value and importance. And that can't be booked. That can't be taught in a textbook. That doesn't just happen by itself. Again, it's all part of that synergetic effect that happens in the classroom, that happens when they see people like yourself and the community, your audience of listeners, the business partners, the government, the people coming in, our assemblymen coming into the classroom, different people saying, wow, and recognizing them with certificates. These students are like, I'm on top of the world. I'm doing something of great value, and this is far better than what those hackers that they see on TV are doing. And it's far more, it's more entertaining, it's more realistic, it's more exciting, it's much more valuable, and it's, again, giving them an incredible confidence that you can't buy, you can't package it up, and it's infectious. It spreads across our campus very, very rapidly.
Nice. Now we're almost out of time, Donna, and I want to make sure you have the opportunity to tell people how to get involved in this. But before we get there, the last question: what should a student expect coming into California Cyber Hub, like getting into the program, getting associated with you guys? What should they expect starting this?
And what would be great is we'd love the students to check it out, look at the resources. They can see all kinds of free educational resources where they can go reach out to their teachers and instructors on their campuses. That's what we would like them to do. First of all, look at the support resources that are on California Cyber Hub. And for that, students could go to ca-cyberhub.org. And that's for our business partners as well, or any instructors, teachers, government entities, people out there in the audience. Please go and look at these free resources. Students themselves can see, oh, this is how I would get involved in a cyber team or a cyber program. This is what resources I can look at. There are free lessons on there. There are free articulation for how we can get your course pathways for instructors to look at and students, and that's exactly what happened this year. Several students contacted me via email, contacted us through California Cyber Hub, said, we want this at our school. How do we get into these programs? And then they had their instructors contact us, and that's exactly what we want to do. We've been doing workshops all up and down the California, and in Southern California, specifically, but through Ventura and Northern California, helping spread this out to the different educational institutions and helping them articulate with their community colleges and their CSUs. So the students should go in there and look first at the resources and see what interests them, see what they can be a part of, and then share that with the people that can bring those pathways to their campuses. And that would be the first step. And again, they can connect with any of our students. Students themselves can become members on the California Cyber Hub. They can connect with other students that are on it, reach out to them, and that's what it becomes. It becomes a great collaborative resource where they get to talk to each other and share their knowledge or insight and share their backgrounds. And that's what makes it so fun, and that's why it's taking off.
Nice. And I can't wait to see it in person. It's going to be something fantastic. So Donna, one more time, how can people get a hold of you and find out more about the California Cyber Hub?
Yes, please just contact. My direct email would be donna.woods@ca-cyberhub.org. They can reach out to us that way. They can also reach out to our director. It's just simply director@ca-cyberhub.org, and that is Scott Young. They can reach out to our director or just go straight to our website, which is just ca-cyberhub.org. For all the information, all our links are there, our resources, our contact, links to CyberSeek where they can see the cybersecurity supply demand. They also get links to the NICE framework, which is the national standards for cybersecurity. This is where colleges and business can see the technical skills and abilities listed on there, the certifications, the knowledge, skills, and aptitudes that are listed on there that employers may be looking for and what schools may be looking for. So we've also provided legislation on there. So it's a plethora of resources available on the California Cyber Hub, and we want people to reach out to us. It's new. We also need business backing. If you're a business out there and you want to be a part of this, please, we welcome you. We want to support your endeavors, and we would love your support as well. We are a nonprofit 503c, so anything that they can do, again, collaboratively, so we expand this out. It is not about profit. It's about expanding the education, expanding the information, sharing the resources to make this better, to make this happen, to fulfill our cybersecurity supply demand around our state. And then the exciting thing is, Charles, if I can share this, this is being reviewed by the national headquarters of Cyber Patriot back in Washington, D.C. and Virginia, which has, again, a little larger job openings than we do at this time at 33,000. And they said they'd like to use the California Cyber Hub as a national model. So once we get our foundations and have this going, we can be assured that the other states across the United States are going to emulate what we're doing. We're already being touted and looked at for that process. And we are extremely grateful for everybody's part to this point, for every one of our advisors on there. They can seek out people in their area throughout the state of California. So there are advisors at every area listed on our Cyber Hub that can reach out and support you, and deputy sector navigators throughout the state of California that support the business and the educational endeavors in your area.
Right on. Well, Donna, it has been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm looking forward to see CA Cyber Hub just grow out of control to one day just being like, I have no idea, it's everywhere now, but I am so happy and so excited to see all this. So I look forward to having you back and getting an update and hopefully getting to come out there and see this whole thing in person.
Absolutely, Charles. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. Thank you to your audience. We are honored and privileged and looking forward to collaborating with you in the future. We want to see this expand for the whole state of California to see what we can do to support them. So thank you again for this incredible opportunity. We truly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for being on. You have a great day.
You too. Thank you, Charles.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So there you go. A really, really good conversation about the California Cyber Hub with Donna Woods, the community manager out there. Check out the California Cyber Hub at ca-cyberhub.org. That's ca-cyberhub.org, or California or CA Cyber Hub on Twitter and all the other social media out there to see what they're doing and what they've got going on out there. Again, it is a remarkable example of just people from all over the place coming together in a comfortable environment, in an environment that works well for them, that works well for all of us, and gives everybody an opportunity to learn a new skill and to embrace things. But one of the things that I just want to remind everyone, that if you understand diversity, right, if you are truly inspired by what diversity is in any way, shape, or form, you have to understand that sometimes people's diversity is not going to sit well with you. And while you can get emotional and you can get angry and you can get frustrated and you can retaliate against these people, you're not helping yourself or them understand how your two diversities can work together. And that's where we need to keep going. That's what we need to keep doing. And that's the challenging conversations that we need to have. You know, I grew up having these challenging conversations, so I was blessed with that opportunity. But now I'm seeing that there are so many people that are offended by those conversations, that are so scared of those conversations, so threatened by those kinds of conversations, that they just don't know how to interact with them. And they didn't grow up with the benefit of being able to have those challenging conversations. So I encourage everyone to check out CA Cyber Hub at ca-cyberhub.org, or to just go out there on your daily grind and meet new people with interesting things and do the stuff that you know we have to do out there. Or because if we don't do it now, then we're just going to continue to have these same issues. And I was having this conversation over the course of the weekend, like I said, with so many people. And one of the depressing responses that I got was how dare you re-traumatize someone by having them relive a traumatic experience. And while I agree, I understand, I can feel it, and I get it. I totally understand it. It's like me talking about, my first IED experience in Iraq. I understand it. It's hard to talk about. It's difficult to get anybody else to understand what's going on from your perspective. But holding that in and not talking to someone, not engaging with someone is going to be problematic. Now, last week I started something where I was giving you tips on how to what I was personally doing to get the conversations moving forward, to engage in the community, to engage with people so that we're not all at each other's throats for every reason. Here's your tip for this one. Have the challenging conversations. Table your emotions for 30 seconds. Find the commonalities between you and the person you're talking to. Find the yes, the where you two can come together. The fact that you're human is one. The fact that you breathe oxygen is another one. The fact that you probably all drink water is another one. But find those commonalities and work forward from there. And don't allow our differences to stop the conversation and allow them to prevent us from doing anything. So music means I'm out of time. I'm over time. Sorry, radio people on 252 out there. But that's it here on the Charles Tendell Show. I'm out of here, and I will see you guys tomorrow, where we will keep having challenging conversations. I'm out. Okay. So if you guys are out there watching on the Facebook live stream, or you're out there watching on the CharlesTendellShow.com/live, I want to let you know a couple of things. One, I got a notice from Facebook and all of the retardedness that they are, that for whatever reason, the show was restricted this evening. So I wasn't able to get it in all the places that I wanted to. Now there are a couple of places where I would have loved to have had this show go out to, specifically the 2600 group, where I was actually having a lot of these conversations. So while I've been sitting in there, while I've been watching, it has been an interesting series of conversations that I've had all around about this particular topic. And I've had men chime in, I've had women chime in, I've had all kinds of people chime in on this topic. And the issue with me, or for me, is I don't see a lot of the mistreatment. And even with Donna there, and again, go check them out, cacyberhub.org, ca-cyberhub.org. I'm really looking forward. I'm probably going to get on a plane at some point and go out there. And, you know, when I'm out there for RSA next year, I know I'm talking all the way to next year, but when I get out there for RSA next year, I'll probably drop in on them just to see what's going on, and maybe even do a couple of interviews or something out there, because the idea of just ignoring all of this, just ignoring black, white, Asian, Puerto Rican, whatever, just ignoring all of that, male, female, just ignoring all of that, and getting to what people can actually do to help one another, to work with one another, to be better with everything that we've got going on. That is kind of the point. You know, that is where we need to get as a society. And I know people are like, hey, I can visually see you, but, you know, so it's hard to assume that they're going to ignore that. But like I said, this conversation has expanded. And even now with Donna and her time in the industry, she's saying, hey, I didn't have that kind of resistance in cybersecurity. You know, I didn't have that kind of issue in cybersecurity. People are openly welcoming. They want me here. They want me to be a part of the conversation. They want my input, because now is the time when all of this has changed. You know, now if you look at it from a different lens from other people, and it is remarkable to see how this all works out. You hear about people making threats. You hear about people, you know, holding a job over somebody's head. You hear about people taking advantage of people. You hear about people intimidating people. And it is one of those things that me personally, I just don't get, you know, and you know, I try and expand myself. I try and expand to the point where I'm saying, hey, this is what's there. But the issue comes down to, a lot of these people don't understand that their behavior isn't appropriate. A lot of these people don't understand that there are some sensitive people here in the world that you really have to challenge yourself or reserve yourself. But then on the flip side of that, on the other side of that whole thing, at what point does censoring ourselves individually become to the point where we don't even speak? You know, I've engaged with a couple of women on this particular topic, and their response has been perceived hostile. You know, me being the person that I am, I happen to be one of those unique people that, like I said, grew up having these challenging conversations. So my whole being is about poking the bear and being like, look, I want to know what's really going on here. I want to ask you the difficult questions. I want to ask you the issues that's really going on. I want to find out for real what you're talking about here, because you dancing around this topic is an issue for me. And maybe I'm a simpleton in that particular regard, but I want you to tell me what you're really feeling, what you're really thinking, and stop giving me the jive. Because quite honestly, we're never going to get anywhere past that. We're never going to get anywhere past this whole idea of people having an issue. And if you can't talk about it, even if it isn't to me, you know, if you can't talk about it, how do you expect somebody to solve it? You know, I asked this question once or twice about presenting your diversity to someone, you know, and people are saying, hey, you know, treat people as you want to be treated. Well, what if I want to be treated in a way that you would deem poor? You know, what if I want to be treated in a way that you wouldn't agree with? What if I want to be treated in a way that to me is the correct way to be treated? Because we live in a world where yeah, you grow up in one household where you have challenging conversations like mine, and that's how you go out into the world. That's what you're designed for. That's what you were groomed for. Versus you grew up in a household where no conversations happened at all, and anytime somebody did anything, it was offensive to you, and you were trained to go and hide in a corner somewhere somewhere, or you were trained to go and retreat into yourself, or you were in one of those environments where people were just very touchy. They were very lovey. They didn't have a whole bunch of problems with a personal space. So you got to have the conversation. You can't make the assumption that the person that you're in front of, the person that you're working with, the person that you are engaging with has any idea who you are as an individual. None. They're going to approach you. They're going to see you at face value as to what you are, and then they're going to go through the process of getting to know you. And if you're offended by them getting to know you, then you're in the wrong damn place. Seriously, you need to reflect on yourself. You need to reflect on your own image. You need to reflect on your own personality and be able to be offended and still engage. If you're offended, explain to that person why you're offended. If you're offended, explain to that HR department, that boss, that manager, whoever, be damned with what you might have happened to you, right? What is it? Joyce Myers said it best, you don't worry about what they're saying, because worry is a down payment on a problem you probably won't even have. So just engage with these people, take the risk, learn something new, and move on. That's how you have to do it. You have to do it that way. You can't just go about your life in all of its wonder and all of its splendor and everything that's going on and say, you know what? I was offended by that. Screw you. I'm leaving. Now, meanwhile, again, Facebook censored my video. I don't know why. I'm going to find out why. This is now the second one in a row that they've done. They did the WTF America with Greg Singleton. If you missed that one, it's over on the Facebook page. If you missed it, it's also over on the CharlesTendellShow.com. But a lot of these are now going to go up on the CharlesTendellShow.com/live. Thank you, YouTube, because Facebook has become pretty finicky. Now, while I love the numbers, I love the engagement, I love the fact that the videos generate a lot of views and a good conversation, we're going to have to work on this. We're going to have to figure out what's going on. But quite honestly, I'm telling you, for me personally, I get offended, right? But I take those offenses and I ask myself, why? Why am I offended? Why does this hurt me? Why does this bother me? And then if I can articulate why, then I can articulate to the person sitting across from me, in front of me, asking the questions or involving with me, I can articulate to them that makes me uncomfortable. And if I can tell you why it makes me uncomfortable, we can work past it. If you guys missed the episode with Sam Curry, where we talked about diversity, he said, quite honestly, he was telling me about a story where he was with a client, and the client said was criticizing him, and he was like, "Is this a we're done with you conversation, or we need you to improve conversation?" And we have to be open to that level of criticism. We have to be level to that level of uncomfortable. We have to be. We can't go any further with this. I'm offended, so screw you. I'm on this side of the mark, or I'm not offended and screw you and I'm on this side of the mark. Meanwhile, everybody is standing there looking and wondering why the world just took this really crappy dive into something we don't recognize anymore. So work through it. Take your offenses, hold on to them for a second, articulate why you're offended, stop stomping off like you're a 5-year-old kid, be an adult for a minute, and engage with people instead of just always being offended. So that's my rant. There you go for that one. Wait a minute, what we got here? Oh, I've got, see, this is, I hate picking up my phone when I look at stuff like this, because when I pick up my phone, oh, cool, I got new likes, I got new stuff going on. Got new messages, got a few things going on. I'm looking at the comment section. There aren't any comments, at least there isn't one in English, and that's at least a problem for me, so I don't have a way to gauge what's going on there. And my viewers are down beyond where I'm comfortable with, so that sucks. Thank you, Facebook, for screwing with my live video there. But over on the CharlesTendellShow.com, it looks like I got more viewers than that, and everywhere else. So I guess we'll start promoting the CharlesTendellShow.com/live for both the audio and the video stream. There is going to be a chat box around there somewhere for you guys to get involved in the conversation. And as we grow, we get better, you'll know what's going on. Again, shouts out to iSecure LLC, mostly because you guys help me in this drive to identifying the No More Hoodies thing, even with my super comfortable official hacker hoodie. But again, a shiny example of women in technology doing the things that are out there. So that's it. I'm gonna take my rant somewhere else. I've got to go pick up my daughter from school, from her rehearsal, and we'll get on with our conversation. So please, I beg of you, everyone out there, table your emotions for just a little bit. Get away from our differences. Identify our commonalities, our similarities with one another, and let's get over it get over ourselves and engage in the challenging conversations. They're going to be uncomfortable. They're going to be difficult. They're going to be problematic. But you know what? If we can work through them, the beauty of what we will create after that is so much better than the world we have today. So that's it, guys. If you got questions or comments, drop them in the comment section down below, and I'll try and get to you at the end of the week. Maybe we'll even do like a real live stream Q&A direct conversation thing on Friday. But please, just engage in the conversation, and don't be scared. Don't be worried. Don't be out there. Don't be upset. Don't be threatened by anything that's going to happen, because I'm not going to bite you. I will not bite you. And if anybody in my comment section decides they want to bite you, I will bite for you or just correct them for you. So just engage in the conversation. Be how does my father say it? Be excellent to each other, Ted. And let's have good, challenging conversations and engage with one another. But that's it here on the Charles Tendell Show. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Same place, maybe, going to charlestendellshow.com/live, unless I can figure out what the hell is going on with Facebook. But that's it, guys. I'm out of here.